as someone who has been, seeking out endorsements from newspapers, and being a Republican in the DMV is not the easiest thing in the world. So you never expect the Washington Post to endorse you. But this act of cowardice to me is just reprehensible, because all the bravado and all the BS that you put out there, democracy dies in darkness. Well, baby, you just turned out the lights, Bezos. You just turned out the lights for the Washington Post, because you were so afraid that, oh my God, Donald Trump is going to drag us. Donald Trump is going to come after my business. Here's the deal. If you can't handle it, sell the paper. Because why did you own it in the first place if this is what you're going to do with it? Same with the LA Times. If you can't take that heat, then get out of that business, because it's not a business for you. You cannot bring that mindset. You don't have a journalistic mindset. You don't understand what the First Amendment means to the men and women who actually do that job every day. There's a reason why your newsroom right now is pissed off at you, dumb behind, because you're buckled. You put it on your masthead and then you took it down because you're afraid of Donald Trump? I don't get what the hell everybody's afraid of this guy for. There are more of us willing to stand in the light so it doesn't go dark, and you're turning out the lights on your own newspaper. Go ahead. See what happens. Because he's still going to come after you if he wins. Wow. Right?
Yeah. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about the mainstream liberal media continuing their outrage over the LA Times and the Washington Post, two very far left newspapers, historically speaking, refusing to endorse Kamala Harris, okay? And surely they're going to continue to be upset because apparently Jeff Bezos wants more conservative opinion writers at the paper, right? So the rumors are that Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post, said, you know what, we're not going to endorse Kamala Harris, okay? You can't endorse Kamala Harris. We want to remain neutral, okay? We actually want our paper to live up to what journalism is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be neutral, okay? So we're not supposed to come out here and endorse any one candidate, right? We're supposed to just have neutrality. And the mainstream liberal media is upset about this, right? They do not like neutrality. They think that neutrality is bending the knee to authoritarianism because neutrality doesn't benefit the Democrat Party. Take a look.
Typically, Jeff Bezos has been praised for not interfering with the Washington Post journalism, but now that's clearly been breached. He's clearly influencing whether the paper, the opinion pages, endorse the candidate they wanted to endorse. They had drafted.
And these are the opinion pages, to be clear.
This is what they do. These are the opinion pages. It's not the journalists, but it's the opinion pages, and it means something, and I think actually the striking thing is that the most powerful people in society, Ali, the Jeff Bezos of the world, these are billionaires, right? They're supposed to theoretically, it would be nice if they safeguarded society when there was a threat, when there are sinister forces trying to seize power. Instead, you're seeing them kiss the ring, and the journalists, the people who are paid far less, who hold, they make far less money than these billionaires, hold less power than they do. They're the ones resigning in protest, taking a stand, saying democracy is on the line, and we're going to hold this line the best we can.
Bezos may be aiming for neutrality, striving for neutrality, but it's striking some readers of the Post as anything but. Now, at newspapers like the Washington Post, editorials are written by a separate team, the opinion section, that is separate from the newsroom. But in the 24 hours since Bezos' Post announced it will not make an endorsement this year, newsroom staffers, editors, and reporters have been inundated by messages from angry and disappointed readers who are concerned that Bezos might be appeasing Donald Trump. See, the opinion team had already drafted an editorial endorsing Kamala Harris and warning of the threats posed by Donald Trump's authoritarian tendencies. But the owner of the paper, Bezos, who has owned the Post now for more than a decade, decided not to publish the endorsement. That's entirely his option because he is the owner of the paper. But historically, Bezos has been hands-off with the Post. So his involvement in this case is raising a lot of concern internally. My reporting indicates that thousands of Post subscribers have reached out to cancel their subscriptions in the 24 hours since this news broke because they are worried about what this message is sent, what kind of message is being sent here. Now, Post publisher Will Lewis, who was handpicked by Bezos to run the organization, says in a news statement to me today, As publisher, I do not believe in presidential endorsements. We are an independent newspaper and should support our readers' ability to make up their own minds. He's refuting some reporting from the New York Times that he actually wanted to publish the endorsement of Harris until Bezos said not to. The overarching story here is about a concern that billionaires like Bezos might be rolling over and appeasing Donald Trump, whether even before the election day actually rolls around. This is known by some scholars as anticipatory obedience, the idea that some people obey in advance to curry favor with aspiring authoritarians. Certainly, many liberal critics of Trump believe that's exactly what's happening now at publications like the Washington Post. And I've heard from staffers inside the Post, reporters and editors, who are worried about the chilling effect that this is having. As one source there said to me, we are talking internally about how to cover a possible second Trump term, and we're concerned that the owner won't have our backs. The famed duo of Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, who famously broke open the Watergate story for the Post decades ago, released a statement overnight saying the following: "We respect traditional independence of the editorial page, but this decision, 11 days from the election, ignores the Post's own overwhelming repertorial evidence on the threat Trump poses to democracy." Woodward and Bernstein credited Bezos with providing the paper, quote, abundant resources to cover that threat. And they said, that's what makes this decision even more surprising and disappointing, especially this late in the electoral process. So far, no word, no comment directly from Bezos.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that. Now, this is not a surprise to me because I've been telling you guys for the longest time that the media thinks that neutrality is right-wing, okay? If you are neutral, then you are conservative, you are pro-Trump, you are fascist, you are a Nazi. This is what they're saying, okay? This is what they're accusing Jeff Bezos of doing, which is siding with authoritarianism, kissing Trump's ring because he's saying, nah, I think that the paper should be neutral, okay? I think that the paper should actually engage in journalism, okay? I don't think that the paper should be an arm of the Democrat Party. Therefore, they're saying that this is a bad thing, right? This is the media, okay? This is what they're saying. So, again, Jeff Bezos here, not only is he saying, well, I don't want to endorse Kamala Harris, okay? I don't want the paper endorsing Kamala Harris, but he wants more conservative opinion writers, right? He actually wants the paper to be fair and balanced, which the left hates, okay? They hate fair and balanced journalism, right? This is what they're saying. By the way, I have to remind you guys that Jeff Bezos refusing to endorse Kamala Harris and wanting more conservative voices coincides with his transformation as an individual, his physical transformation, in which he clearly has gained more muscle mass. Now, I'm not sure if he's on them supplements, right, the older that he gets, but clearly the guy has had a testosterone boost, and then he's thinking more clearly about his politics. I don't think it's a coincidence anymore, guys, right? I really do think that there's something to this whole testosterone levels and political opinions among men. I really do think that the only reason we do not have at least 90% of men in this country voting Republican, conservative, and for Trump is because we have too many men in this country who have low testosterone levels, okay? And if we could normalize those testosterone levels across the board, then you wouldn't have any men voting for Democrats, right? I'm just saying, like, I'm really starting to believe that, right? I really am. Okay, so let's read this. Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos has reportedly given the newspaper a mandate to add more conservative voices to its opinion section, even as he remains silent over the broadsheet decision not to endorse a candidate in the 2024 presidential election. Bezos, the world's second richest person with a fortune that Bloomberg Billionaires Index value at $211 billion as of Monday, is keen on gaining a more ideologically diverse readership by expanding his newspaper reach among right-leaning audiences, according to a report in the New York Times. Yeah, because this propaganda outlet is not profitable, okay? The Post last year apparently lost $77 million. So there's $77 million in the red, okay? Essentially, this paper shouldn't exist. It is on welfare, okay? Jeff Bezos is subsidizing the Washington Post, staying alive, and these journalists are boohoo, whining, and crying, right? They're all upset. This billionaire that is subsidizing their jobs that apparently are not profitable, okay? These people do not make money, but yet they're mad at Jeff Bezos because Jeff Bezos is saying, nah, we're not going to endorse anybody. But yet this paper would not exist without Jeff Bezos, right? And again, he's $77 million in the hole, right? So that's $77 million that he has to pay out of his own pocket every single year in order to keep the paper alive, right? To keep it running. And these people are complaining. They're upset. But the left knows this, and this is the reason why they're telling people, hey, don't boycott the Post, okay? Don't cancel your subscription to the Post. No. Cancel your Amazon subscription, which is definitely not going to happen, okay? Amazon is one of those companies that is not cancelable, right? You cannot cancel Amazon. It is too ingrained in the lives of the everyday American, right? Like, it's just not going to happen, okay? They're not going to hurt Jeff Bezos at all, okay? This is not going to work, but this is what they're saying, okay? Now, the Washington Post has the same problem that CNN has, okay? This is the reason why CNN is struggling, is because their viewership is too left-leaning, okay? And when all of the mainstream liberal outlets are left-leaning, they're all trying to go after the same group of people, then that creates a divided audience, right? In which you're only getting a small chunk of that audience, and that audience is not enough to be profitable, especially when you're talking about print media, okay? And a lot of these mainstream liberal media outlets that people are just running away from, right? People just don't really care too much about these outlets anymore, okay? So if you're going to stay alive, you can't just be propaganda for the Democrats, okay? You have to actually be ideologically diverse so that you can expand your viewership, right? The problem with that is that, again, the left, they hate that, right? They can't stand that, okay? And they try to cancel any outlet that's not overtly left-wing, right? That's not 99% on the side of Democrats. Now, maybe they will go to Fox News route. I don't know, because Fox News is ideologically diverse, okay? Not only do they have conservative opinions, but they have Democrat opinions as well, too. And you see the success, right? Fox News is a model for how you can be successful in traditional media, but you have to have an actual diversity of opinion. You have to actually exercise some neutrality. Now, some people say that Fox News is not neutral, but Fox News is way more neutral than CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, all these other outlets, right? They're way more neutral. So they're going to have some success. Also, the Wall Street Journal, they're also more neutral as well, too. More right-leaning, and they're more successful, okay? At least they're more successful in the 21st century, where you have a lot of these traditional print outlets struggling. They're more successful than outlets like the Washington Post, right? So Jeff Bezos is clearly saying that, hey, this model that we have here of being Democrat Party propaganda, this ain't working, right? This ain't gonna make money, and I can't keep subsidizing this failing company. The Amazon founder, meanwhile, has remained silent over the non-endorsement controversy. He has not spoken publicly amid protests from high-level staffers and prominent figures such as Watergate reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. Marty Baron, who was executive editor of the newspaper when Bezos bought the Washington Post more than a decade ago, denounced the move as an act of cowardice. Washington Post staffers were reeling over Bezos' decision to block the Harris endorsement, a draft of which was said to be all typed up and ready for publication. The newspaper's own reporters published an article which claimed that Bezos himself made the decision to veto the endorsement, a move that raised eyebrows since it broke with a tradition of 36 years, less than 2 weeks before the election. Now, here's the thing. Had the Washington Post come out and endorse Trump, they would still be boohoo-whining and crying, right? So they don't really care about the Washington Post not giving an endorsement. They just care about the Washington Post not endorsing a Democrat, right? That's actually what they really care about. Because, again, had they endorsed Trump, they would have the same amount of outrage, if not more outrage. What they really care about is the fact that the Washington Post didn't endorse Kamala Harris. Bezos hired ex-Wall Street Journal boss Will Lewis as his chief executive, despite protests from journalists at the newspaper who cited his alleged involvement in the UK phone hacking scandal. So doesn't this sound familiar, again, with what happened at CNN? Remember, they tried to go neutral, okay? They tried to go neutral about a couple years ago with a new executive, and the left-wing activists, the Democrat Party propagandists, the so-called journalists, they outraged, right? They protested against CNN trying to be more neutral, and eventually that guy had to leave, right? He had to step down because of the fact that the propagandists at the network couldn't stand the fact that the boss wanted them to be more neutral, wanted them to stop being overt left-wing propaganda. Now, again, the journalists are not business people. They don't care about profitability, and they're totally fine with having billionaires subsidize their failing platforms, okay? They're totally fine with that, okay? And then they'll turn around and they'll boohoo, whine, and cry when they can't get their way. Now, if I was Jeff Bezos, I would fire all these people, Okay, I'm gonna keep it 100. I would fire every single last one of these people that protest against me coming out and saying that the paper has to be neutral and wanting to have a diversity of opinions at the paper, right? Why is that? It's because none of these individuals are making the paper money. They're not producing a positive return on investment. If I am subsidizing a paper to stay alive, right? If without me, the paper would die. You don't have any room as a so-called journalist to tell me what to do and how to run my business. Okay? You don't. You don't. Because again, if you were somebody that produced a positive return on investment, then, hey, you wouldn't need somebody like a Jeff Bezos to subsidize the paper. Once you actually start making money, once you actually start producing profitability, then you can have a say, okay? And even then, it's still a limited say, but at least you can have a say. But again, if the paper is in the red, then no, you can't have a say, right? If you want to protest about it, then you can leave. But again, there's a reason why Bezos hired this guy from the Wall Street Journal is because the Wall Street Journal is a more successful business, okay? And they're a lot more neutral. Lewis, who said it was him and not Bezos who killed the endorsement, wrote a column in which he said that the decision was actually a return to a tradition the paper had years ago of not endorsing candidates. He said it was, quote, consistent with the values the Post has always stood for, and it reflected the paper's faith in our readers' ability to make up their own minds. Well, Democrats don't believe in that, right? Liberals do not believe in the readers' ability to decide for themselves, okay? Quote, we recognize that this will be read in a range of ways, including as a tacit endorsement of one candidate or as a condemnation of another or as an abdication of responsibility that is inevitable, Lewis wrote. Quote, we don't see it that way. We see it as consistent with the values the Post has always stood for and what we hope for in a leader, character, and courage in service to the American ethic, veneration for the rule of law, and respect for human freedom in all its aspects. The decision sparked a backlash among staffers and readership, with scores of social media users proclaiming that they had canceled their subscriptions to the paper. Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, so the left-wing loonies are upset, right? They are losing their minds because a liberal paper is saying we want to go neutral, right? We want to be neutral. We've seen this play out before the past, right? We saw this happen at CNN when they tried to go neutral. Same thing happened. And every time this happens, it really shows you how intolerant the left has become, right? They are not tolerant to differences of opinion. And these people don't believe that the free press should be free, right? They believe that anything less than left-wing Democrat Party propaganda is not a free press, okay? Which is totally consistent with essentially everything that the left believes in regards to when they come out here and they say that they believe in something, that actually means they believe in the opposite, right? Like, for example, when they come out here and they talk about democracy so much, it's actually because they're anti-democratic, right? They actually hate democracy, which is why they talk about it so much, because they hate it, okay? Same thing here, okay? These people talk about the need for a free press. They're quite literally showing you we don't believe in a free press, right? Anything outside of left-wing propaganda is not the free press in their eyes. And again, that really is telling of the so-called left nowadays and how authoritarian they actually are, okay? These people that boohoo whine and cry about fascism so much, it's because they really, really, really love fascism, okay? And the outrage against Jeff Bezos wanting to make the paper more neutral is exactly what I'm talking about. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.